Any questions? Mr. Tremblay.
I have a couple of questions on this, and I think I see Mr. Cushing in the audience too, but here I have a couple of questions for Mr. Pierik, and I want to focus for a minute on big page A8, section 14 under conflicts of interest. And that section, in my own personal professional experience, is rather standard in professional services agreements, and it basically means that the Chamber is covenanting that under the law, and particularly the Political Reform Act, it's not going to have a conflict of interest that's going to hinder its performance of the agreement. So with that in mind, Mr. Pierik, is Section 14 standard language for all of the city's consultant contracts in this professional services agreement template?
Yes.
Does it prevent the Chamber of Commerce from criticizing a city program or a practice?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. I was on the board, as you know, I was on the board almost, it's been almost 20 years, I guess 18 years. And it's really important to me that there be honest communication between the Chamber and the city as to all aspects of what's going on in the city. And I want to make sure that the Chamber of Commerce doesn't feel constrained from criticizing a city program or practice. So I'd like to just ask Mr. Cushing briefly if the Chamber ever feels like they're, even though they're consulting with the city, do they ever feel constrained from criticizing or critiquing a chamber or a city program or a practice?
Sure. Could you state your name for the record, please?
Gary Cushing, CEO of the Camarillo Chamber of Commerce.
Shall I restate the question?
No.
Thank you.
Am I being cross-examined by time?
I'm sorry.
There is at no time do we feel at the Chamber that we cannot voice our approval or disapproval of city policies. And I think Joe will attest to that he and I have a great working relationship, and I can name probably 6 different times in the last 8-9 months that I've contacted him and said, hey, I think the city's wrong in this decision for planning or plan checks. And so he and I have gotten together and resolved the issues with the businesses in Camarillo.
Okay, so just to confirm, so if you thought that the Chamber board thought that the city was, or the Chamber thought that the city was going down the wrong track on something, it would say, hey, you're going down the wrong track?
Yeah, absolutely. And we have in the past when I can bring up when the city had brought up about doing art for business development, our Chamber president at the time got up and said that we didn't agree with the city policy.
Okay. Thank you. That's all my questions for Mr. Cushing.
Okay.
Can I
Any
ask
other
a clarification?
Mrs. McDonald.
But what we're talking about, and this, I guess, is for the city attorney. Doesn't this have to do with a financial interest? I mean, isn't that what we're talking about, the conflict of interest being?
Yes, I understood that those were 2 separate questions from Mr. Tremblay. So the answer to your question is yes.
And that was my intent, sorry.
So that it was just the financial. So you would, if you had a financial conflict, then you approach it differently. But just doing your job is a different story, as we all do.
Absolutely right. I could have phrased that differently.
Okay. Because we all know that Gary praises us, and Gary can keep us in line too.
Any other questions?
I can attest to that.
I don't for Mr. Cushing, but thank you for all that the Chamber does do for us.
Thank you.
What are the
I
wishes?
have a question of the city manager. Do we have any idea when we'll get the study back?
Yes, we're coming back to you in closed session with another draft next week, next 2 weeks, on the 23rd.
All righty. Thank you.
Did I say study? What did I say?
What? Not close session.
I'm sorry, for clarification, that's study session.
Okay.
Public.
I was
meeting.
wondering.
Your Honor, I'll authorize the city manager to execute the agreement number 2015-16A, extending the economic development services with the Camarillo Chamber of Commerce for a period of 1 year for the amount of $70,000.
Is there a second? There's a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries unanimously.